Last week, Creative New Zealand declined funding for a renowned Shakespeare school program, but after public uproar, the Education Minister made sure it had the funds. I'm joined by Simon Bridges, who thinks the debacle tells us a lot about New Zealand in 2022. Why is that, Simon?
Well, look, for me personally, I suppose my wife has degrees in English literature. I wouldn't say I'm a great literary figure or anything, but I have some interest, and so it produced something of a rage in me, and I suspect that's true for a bunch of others. When you sit back and you're a bit more dispassionate about it, though, I do think it is an interesting kind of tale around where New Zealand is at socially, the polarisation, the confusion about these things, and I think also, frankly, the quick backlash that we saw.
Now, you mention in your column that there's a sort of reverse cultural cringe going on. Why do you say that?
Because I think what you see is, in a way, you see it in the mayoralty campaigns as well, in the sense that many of the mayoralties around and councils around New Zealand going one way, Wellington going another. This disconnect between the bureaucracy, certainly parts of it, and also Wellington and everyone else. In a sense there that, look, actually, if it's part of our British culture, you might want to say European culture, and it's not entirely indigenous or part of us in the Pacific, we're not sure about that. We don't kind of want anything to do with that. And of course, I disagree with that. And I think most New Zealanders actually would disagree with that. Many of us, perhaps even most of us, are culturally from different places, and we accept that, we should be proud of our Māori and our Pacifica culture, but also of things like Shakespeare. It comes from Britain, but is also, in a sense, part of Kiwi culture, given our history and where we've got to.
You also conclude, though, that times are a-changing. For everyone that loves Shakespeare and think it's worthwhile teaching it all throughout schools, there are others that really don't like it, and there's plenty of other really great playwrights around. How do we address this?
Well, I think, what it shows again is that confusion. I think it shows, Shakespeare is hard. It's tricky. I'm not claiming to be able to sit down and read it line for line and automatically understand all of it, but it's in the challenge that we still want our young people to be learning that. As I say, it is part of their New Zealand history and cultural identity, I would argue, still today. I think what it also shows in terms of those times they are changing, a sense of change in the government and the media landscape. I really do believe this, except some way, you're drawing a long bow, but I would suggest if we went back even 2 or 3 years, you wouldn't have seen the media reaction and the backlash. And the government, I think, gets that. I think you see in Labour, to its credit, since they can see the times are changing, and they were very swift, Jacinda Ardern and Chris Hipkins, to disagree with Creative New Zealand and to find the funding for this, because they could see what was going to come and the backlash that they would face if they didn't.
Yeah, you did say in your column that you found it interesting that the Labour government didn't fall down the rabbit hole of defending Creative New Zealand. What does that say to you?
I think it says that they understand socially, politically, they're in a different landscape than they were in 2020, when at a level they could do no wrong, right? And they got a landslide victory. It's much more fraught times for them. They can't afford to have, if I can put in quotes, the word extravagances such as this. They didn't want to be there with that sort of Wellington elitist cultural cringe view, or reverse cultural cringe view that I've said. I think more broadly, another interesting thing about it is, we accept, I think we can all accept that the likes of Wayne Brown, but other mayors won off the back of, we'll fix it, we've got infrastructural issues, we've got these bricks and mortar issues. But I think, as I say in the column, it was also an up yours from voters around some of the social stuff, in a sense that some of it, I hesitate to use the word wokery, but wokery has gone too far. and yeah, there's a polarisation, but more than that, quite a quick backlash that is where we're at now in 2022.
Simon, thanks for your time.
Thanks very much.